Well, I am really pleased to say that joining me on the Godcast is a rather unique lady, Cathy Mcaleer. Cathy is Northern Ireland's only professional female boxer, but she's had a highly decorated career in sports. Prior to boxing, Cathy held two world titles in karate and one world championship in full contact kickboxing. Cathy hails from the city of Belfast, and at the age of 38, she made the switch to boxing, where her intentions are to win more titles. Cathy, it's really great to welcome you to the Godcast. How do we find you today?
Thanks for inviting me on. I'm actually in Portugal with my manager, Kelly Maloney. I came out just after Christmas for a bit of a training camp. We weren't too sure how boxing was going to go, but everything's going good, thanks.
And in the words of Peter Kay, what's the weather like there?
It has been frosty in the morning and then the sun comes out. It gets a wee bit warmer in the afternoon. It's probably better than what it is back home. But the scenery is unbelievable. It's lovely. It reminds me a wee bit of Donegal. It's very green.
Right. And have you keeping up a fitness regime while you're out there?
Yeah, I have indeed. There's a lot of hills around where Kelly lives. So I've been running every other day, and then Kelly's been taking me into the boxing gym for some boxing training, and it's been great. She's been encouraging me and working with me on different things, which has been brilliant.
Yeah, great. All right, Cathy, let's just go back to your journey from the beginning, really. So, what was life like for you growing up in Belfast? Were you aware of the troubles at the time, or did they pass you by?
Yeah, very much so. Back in Belfast, I was brought up with a mixed family. My mum was Protestant, my dad was Catholic, and then my mum changed over and became Catholic because they believed that putting us through Catholic school would be best for our education. So we were brought through Catholic school, and we literally lived across the road from the primary school and the secondary school. We were always late, of course, even though it was only across the road. But yeah, we were very much aware of it. We were very much went to school, came home, and didn't leave the house after that. It was, I think my dad had went through the troubles and he got held at gunpoint. So it put him underneath a wee bit of scare tactics, and he was paranoid that people were going to come, that we were going to survive it. So whenever we came in from school, it was pretty much locked the doors. Everybody stayed in until you had to go out again. That's what I remember was the majority of my childhood was we were always secure and safe. As I grew up, obviously I worked in local news agents and stuff, and I did witness some of the trouble, some of the shootings. And I was very lucky to have a strong family connection around me to bring you through that kind of scenario. So it didn't impact me later in life. So yeah, it's been a big part. It's been a big part of many people's lives, I suppose.
How did that go down in the family when there was this kind of move to the Roman Catholic Church? Was there any kind of disdain from other family members, or that you remember?
Well, I wasn't even born at that stage whenever they decided, and I think my mum was just one of the best for us and one of the best for my older sisters. And it was a decision her and my dad made, and mum brought us to mass every Sunday. She did all the probably more religious sides than my dad would have probably done in the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, she brought us up, let us understand her religion, but also we learned um, predominantly we live Roman Catholics, and but she would have still told us about the 12th and told us about July and told us about her childhood and so on. So we were brought up very open-minded.
And is that faith aspect something that stayed with you through your life, or has it drifted away,
Um,
or
yeah,
how's
no,
that?
very much so. I have a very strong faith. It doesn't mean I practice and I go regularly every weekend to mass and so on, but I have a very strong faith myself and always have done, and I feel it's brought me through a lot of different stages of life, and yeah, it's pretty much stayed with me the whole way through.
Right. And I was I was lucky to visit Belfast last year with my family, and I really enjoyed Belfast, Cathy, and it seems like it's a city that's moving forward. And I don't really want to get too political, but do you? But I did sense a kind of a tension in the city as well. Um, the kind of the protected police vehicles are very obvious, and there is a presence, isn't there? How would you describe
Yeah,
Belfast now
it's
as an adult?
certainly moved forward an awful lot. Yeah, it's certainly moved forward. My goodness, leaps and bounds since I was a child. The troubles and all have settled down. It's a lovely place to visit. It's a great city. There's a great vibe about it. There's a lot of tourists come to it. And it's certainly a really, really safe and secure place. Yeah, that you do see police presence, and maybe the fakers make me look a wee bit deceiving, but it's a lot quieter than what it was, and it's a really good place to visit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know
As a
it's
kind of
it's changed big time from the right child.
as a kind of quite high profile sports person, do you get drawn into that debate quite frequently, or do you try and? I interviewed Eamon Holmes, who was the first person I interviewed, and obviously he's from Belfast, and you know he's often asked to comment. What about yourself?
Yeah, well, I was very lucky. I was brought up in sport, and in sport, it was always mixed. It was cross community. In the local youth club, you were taught cross community relationships, and I managed a health club in Virgin Active in Hollywood for 13 and a half years. So my staff were mixed, the members were mixed, so I had to keep that neutral ground. And Eamon Holmes actually was a member. He used to come, so he
Was
did.
he?
He didn't train too much in the gym, mind you. I think Ruth did work in the name did. But yeah, so me managing a health club of 4,500 members, I had to keep it very neutral. And there would have been like campaigns came out for the Jubilee weekend, and because I was part of a chain in London, they would have sent me similar marketing material, and I would have had to say no, can't use that in Belfast. We're a neutral club, so we didn't allow football tops, we didn't allow Gaelic tops, and we kept it very neutral, and that was the best way to keep it. And people respected me for playing sport and getting involved in the community and helping kids with their self-esteem, their confidence, with bullying, and that everybody kind of respected the position and the stance. It was best just to run a neutral club, and that's
Yeah.
the way we did run it.
Yeah. And just keeping on your childhood for a little bit, Cathy, what was the kind of driving force behind you getting into martial arts? Was it the troubles, or you know, what was the driving force behind that?
The main thing was I was pretty timid. I was really quiet and shy in school, and teachers were always concerned why I was so quiet. It probably was a knock-on effect from dad going through the troubles and basically us being closed in. We didn't get to mix and socialize and make friends the same way as you do nowadays. So it was probably a wee part of that, the troubles there, and also I was involved in an incident in a local park where I'd been beat up, and I wouldn't have even fought back for myself because it was that quiet, not timid and shy. So I remember coming home and my dad saying in the local paper, karate school, and he said to my wee brother, "What about doing karate?" And I piped up and says, "I want to do it." So he got us both signed up. We both started karate, and I kept it on from then,
Yeah.
and yeah, loved it ever since.
And when did your kind of talent at karate kind of get noticed? I do wonder sometimes that my kids went to karate. Can anybody be really good at karate, or does there have
No.
to be some natural ability and flair there?
No, not at all. I've taken kids that had no coordination, had no sport, they didn't enjoy sport, they didn't enjoy team sports right the way through. Whenever they realize it's a wee bit like school, you do a syllabus, and at the end you do an exam to pass a belt. So it's nearly like that drive to get the next colour of belt. And it's the exact same for school. It got me studying for school thinking it's the exact same. I've got to pass these exams. And I think it's a kind of individual sport. Wherever you go, you learn the art of self-defense, plus you learn about fitness, about how you eat and stuff, and then how to mix and interact with others. It's an amazing sport. It gives you a lot of respect and discipline. I came from a very old traditional sensei Terry Boyle, and he knocked in tradition. You didn't speak unless you were spoken to. If you won a medal, he took it back off you and say that's only a local medal, that's a Belfast medal. Let's see what you're like in Northern Ireland. Let's see what you're like in England. He always knocked you back down. He was like an old traditional
Yeah.
sensei that never ever would have told you well done.
So what ultimately separated you from everybody else? What made you the world champion?
I think, to be honest with you, it was just drive. I had this inner drive. I loved it. It was a break away from obviously being in the house. It was a break away from troubles, from school. It was like my own individual. I just found myself. It was something that I loved and I learned. And each time I was going back, I was learning more and learning more. I think the fact that he maybe kept on pushing me back, saying that's not good enough, that's not good enough. I was determined to show girls can do this. And the class was full of guys too. So it was nearly that determination to show I'm just as good, I can be here.
Yeah. A friend of mine, I think likes karate, likes martial arts, but is deeply opposed to boxing. And I suppose that might be because karate is more an art, as where boxing might be described more as a bit of a scrap. So what was the, would you agree with that? I know when I interviewed Kelly was very clear that boxing is a brutal game, as where karate might be a bit more refined.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, they're both very skillful sports. Whenever you actually get into the detail of boxing, you realize it's like a game of chess. You're trying to get that opponent to drop their hands or move in a position that you can counter and not get caught while you're doing it. Karate's exact same. It's about scoring 6 points without getting hit. It's fast. It's very very quick, very technical. You've got to get in and out, throw head kicks without being caught or blocked. And then whenever you go transfer into the kickboxing, which I transferred into, then I realized, oh my goodness, you actually have to punch as hard as you can as well as throw the kick. So the add-on effect was that you're going in to hit harder and punch harder rather than just score a point. And then obviously me transferring into the boxing was take the kicks out and the knees out in just 2 hands. So it was strange for me at the start of the boxing because I was thinking, don't lift your legs, don't kick, don't knee. And you'd only think about 2 hands, and you only do look at 2 hands coming at you. Whereas in the K1, you're thinking this person can knee me, they can kick me, they can kick my legs. Whereas all of a sudden I'm just focusing on these 2 hands, which took a wee bit of time to transfer across.
So with kickboxing and boxing, I suppose the goal is to hurt the opposition, isn't it? Physically hurt.
Well, the goal is to win. The goal is to win, is to outsmart the opposition. It's not necessarily to hurt them as in to harm them. It's basically a sport. So you're in there to win. You're in to outsmart them to get the better scores, to get their better technique. And yeah, you do go for the knockout. Yes, people see that as the brutal side of it. But them 2 people getting into the ring know what you're getting into and what you're doing.
Yeah. Is boxing more a sport with an intent to hurt than karate? Is karate more an intent to win, if that makes sense?
No, I see both of them exact same, attempt to win. Both of them, 2 opponents are either they've trained just as hard, they've put the same work in, they're getting up early morning and running, they're eating well, they're making weight, and then they're basically going out and they're showing what they've done in the dojo or the gym. And putting it into practice on the day. So I see both of them as very much sport oriented. It's not about going out to harm someone or, you know, it's not, in my eyes, it's not brutal. It's not going out to hurt someone. It's basically putting your skill into practice. Yeah. For me, it's a sport.
And how much do you enjoy the build up to a fight? You know, like your recent fight got quite a lot of publicity, didn't it? Did you enjoy that kind of, you know, cameras being around, or do you just really want to get down to the...
Just want to get in and do. I enjoy the training. I enjoy the challenge of the training and turning up and at a new coach. So I had a new location. I met a new team. So I'm going into a new gym. The girls are kind of looking at me going, who's this girl coming into our gym? So there's that kind of daunting feeling of I'm in the unknown. I don't know anyone, but I'm going to be in the unknown on the night. So I like putting myself into that position that I feel uncomfortable. So on the night, I know how it feels. So I went into a new gym in Guildford with John Edwards. And he looked after me. I was with him for just over 3.5 weeks. So we had 3.5 weeks to get to know each other, to him to get used to my technique, him to iron out a few bits and pieces for me. And it was an unbelievable 3 weeks. He was brilliant. He couldn't have welcomed me more. I was training 3 times a day with him, and he was brilliant. Just wasn't, I would have loved to have had more time with him before the fight came up, because I've been in COVID from February and I've been at home training myself, and you can only do so much yourself. I was physically fit, but in terms of boxing, your distance, your timing, your hand position, boxing, you need to be boxing training all the time. Yeah. And I think that's what let me down, was just that distance, the timing.
Yeah. Cathy, I want to ask you a question about self-control, if I can. And a program I think you'd be fantastic on. I can't remember what it's called, but it's one where the SAS soldiers put all the celebrities through their paces up in the, you know, the Highlands of Scotland or somewhere. I think you'd be fantastic on that. But I remember John Fashanu being on it, who is, I think he's a black belt in martial arts, who lost his self-control just briefly, and used his skill in martial arts to attack somebody. And I know that's quite unusual, but potentially, Cathy, you could be a very dangerous person, couldn't you? You could inflict a lot of pain on somebody. What does martial arts teach somebody about self-control?
From a very young age, the minute you step into the karate dojo, you're told you've got an official license. If you use it outside the dojo, we'll take the license off you. We'll strip you from your. I'm now a third dan, so I'm an instructor. I have 2 schools. I teach myself. I take kids around the world. I teach the Northern Ireland squad. So the kids kind of look up to me now and respect me, and they're looking for a role model. So they kind of follow me. So I'm always aware of that. As well as what I've learned and the discipline that's been imposed on me from a very young age. We were always taught never use it. First thing to do is to walk away. So it's always been taught as a self-defense, and it's embedded in you from a very, very young age.
Mm. And I don't want to get on a downer, but your last fight, I watched that on Eurosport, and sadly it ended in defeat. How do you deal with defeat? How do you take it? Your face looked really kind of quite badly bruised, and you look quite hurt. Is it physical as well as mental suffering you go through? Or?
No, to be honest with you, the physical didn't even bother me. I went out. It was a different scenario. I was outside in the cold. We were warming up in the heat in a tent. So I went from the heat to the cold, and I think it was the shock of coming out. And I was in a crop top and a pair of shorts. And usually there's a crowd, there's an atmosphere, and all of a sudden I'm coming out and there's car horns beeping. It was just different. It was totally different. But that wasn't what happened. What happened was I took a big shot in the first 40 seconds. I've watched it back so many times. My legs rocked. I tried to hold on to breathe to get the legs back. I recovered myself by moving around the outside of the ring and breathing and getting myself focused again, because I was rocked. And it took me that first round to kind of get myself back and get my legs back. Went back to the corner and just didn't regain that distance and timing, and the legs to get in, to get back out, weren't coming with me. My mind knew what I wanted to do, but I just couldn't get the legs to come with me. I think that big shot just rocked me. Like, yeah, she was a very strong hitter, but something probably I haven't experienced before.
So what lessons have you learned from that fight? Because following it, it was described as a step up in class, and she did look a very capable fighter. But what would you do differently when you reflect on a fight like that?
Everybody that knows me knows I'm a very much go. I push forward. I'm a driver and an attacker. I can fight in the defense too. But in that fight, I probably give too much respect at the start instead of just going my normal fight. I had a new coach in the corner, so we kind of a bit of a plan. He was getting to know me, I was getting to know him. There was a lot of things going on that night that on a normal night would have been different. And after taking that big shot, normally I would be in the inside, I'd be bobbing, weaving, I'm going, and I wouldn't have given that opportunity to be sitting back and get caught like a big one like that. I was more annoyed at myself. I was gutted with myself. I went back to the hotel. I had to go to the hospital, get stitched. And I sat in the hospital so angry with myself about what had happened. And I've watched it back. And you know what? Any other night, I think, would have had no problem. I would have won that fight. I still do believe I would have won that fight. But on that night, it just wasn't my night. It just didn't happen.
And Kelly's obviously, Kelly Maloney, who has also done the Godcast, and you can find that interview online. And Kelly's been in the boxing game for donkey's years. What was her reflections on that fight? What kind of advice have you got picked up from her?
Kelly was brilliant. She realised I was pretty choked about it all. She came travel up to the hospital with me. We sat in the NA, we chatted. She says, listen, you've been in COVID. You haven't been in the ring since February. 9 months out of the ring and 3 weeks with a new coach. She says, you've got to take it all into principle. And the girl had 40 fights, she had 4. So she was very good at bringing it all into perspective and bringing my head back to perspective again. And she says, let's sort it out. Let's go again. Let's learn from it and move on.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're doing. I've sat down, I've watched it. Kelly's watched it with me. And you can learn from the defeats and take it on the chin that you don't want to, but and move on.
And I guess it's not easy to make matches, is it? Because we've said that you're the only pro boxer in Northern Ireland. I guess there aren't that many in the UK. So I suppose it's quite difficult to make the matchup, is it?
It was tough making that match because I was meant to fight a girl from Serbia, and then it didn't happen. And then I was fighting this girl, and then it was going to get pulled. And then I heard I was fighting another girl, and then it went back to the Hungarian. So there was a wee bit of chopping and changing because of COVID. And because of the restrictions, they had been in the country for so many days. They've got to get COVID tested. And there was a lot to play with. You know, it wasn't just your normal fight that you were getting ready for. And it's the same for my other opponents. They're all going through the same as what I am. And I was just lucky to get that opportunity to get out and get into the ring. Otherwise, I would have still been sitting here today with no experience of getting back out there fighting in front of public. So I've got to be thankful to Dennis Hobson for putting on such a show, and what a show it was. If you did watch it, wow, it was unbelievable what he pulled together.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, but it was weird watching cars rock up around the ring. It was weird.
They were beeping the horns, so they were when I got into the ring. All I could think of was, this is actually happening. I am actually in the car park and people are beeping horns. It was surreal. It was mad. And you're trying to keep the focus, but you're also thinking to yourself, this is actually happening. But it was good to experience, to be part of it.
I wondered to myself if people were just kind of driving past and thinking, what on earth is going on in that car park?
You know, yeah, probably were. It was well organized, so it was. There's great lights, great setup. It was so professional, and the cars were lined up. They could see really clearly where they were sitting, so there was no hassle with fuel or anything. And then they had a couple of pods with individuals in them as well. So it was really well done. It was really well organized.
For people who haven't seen it, this was, I think, it was the UK's first drive-in boxing night, and it was great. It was very, very well done. Cathy, I want to ask you another question. How is Cathy Mcaleer in the ring different to Cathy Mcaleer outside of the ring?
Most people, I suppose, that meet me wouldn't believe I was a boxer if they met me just in person. And you get that an awful lot. You get a lot of people saying, you don't box, no way. And yeah, I suppose whenever you step into the ring, it's a different kind of character. You're a different person. You're going in there with drive and determination to win. When you're outside, you're kind of like most boxers and martial artists. They're quite reserved. They're quite quiet. They'll not be aggressive or bolshy. They're quite reserved. And I suppose that's why people look at me and they go, you don't box. But yeah.
I grew up being a fan of Barry McGuigan, and I know he's had some tricky court stuff going on recently, but I always found him to be outside the ring. He seemed to, a real gentleman, a real kind of person. And then in the ring, he just exploded. He was an incredible boxer.
Yeah, Barry McGuigan was who I watched as a kid. I used to watch him constantly, and my original karate instructor used to give me a videotape of him. And before I kickboxed every single fight, he used to say, have you watched the fight? Have you watched Barry McGuigan's fight? Because Barry didn't stop. He never stopped moving. No. He moved and moved and moved, and his work was unreal. So we used to base our kickboxing fights on his movement. And it's mad to believe, like, as a young kid, I used to always want to box, but never got that opportunity to box. I was always in karate or kickboxing. And then to get the opportunity now is unreal.
It's a shame that it's not on terrestrial TV so much these days. I mean, I remember McGuigan, I think he fought, I think it was Pedrosa at Loftus Road at Queen's Park Rangers Stadium. And it was, I think my mum and dad let me stay up late, but it was just amazing. And like you said, you just brought back that memory. He never stopped, did he? He never stopped. He was amazing.
Never stopped. And the atmosphere and the support behind him was unbelievable. And I get a lot of all that support from the Belfast crowd. It's like a real hearty home Belfast support. They all come behind you. Even if I was in Sheffield, the text and social media was unreal. Kelly actually says, turn your phone off. And I did. I turned the phone off for a couple of days because it just went mental.
Yeah. Kelly, do you get any resistance from people who just say, well, women shouldn't be boxing?
Oh yeah, of course I do. My own father's never seen me fight in his life. He, whenever he put me into karate, he realised, oh my goodness, they actually fight, they hit each other. So he asked me to stop, but by that stage, I had fallen in love with it. I loved it, and Mum, she kind of backed me up and says, let her do what she wants to do. So he's never actually witnessed me fight ever. And I remember I was fighting for my world kickboxing title, and my coach phoned him, thinking, I'll give him a phone in and fight him down. And I said, he won't want to come. It's not that he doesn't want to be there. He just doesn't want to see me fight.
Yeah.
And he phoned him, and my dad's answer was, thanks very much, but I think there's enough people watching her tonight, because it was in the Odyssey Arena. It was live on Sky TV. And my coach was shocked. He went, you were right. And I said, no, he just doesn't want to watch his daughter box.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I came up against it quite a lot. A lot of people would think females shouldn't do it, but time's changing now, and I think female boxing's become a massive. What a time to hit it with Katie Taylor, and what she's done is unbelievable. And you see it on TV now. People are getting into it. They're getting very passionate about it. It's 2-minute rounds. It goes fast. Sometimes it's better to watch than the men's at the minute. So it's getting a lot of good feedback now compared to when I was younger. It would be unheard of for two females to be in a ring.
Yeah, and away from the ring, Kelly, you're quite well educated. You've been to uni, is that right? Where did you go?
Yeah, I've 2-1 in sports marketing. I went to Stirling University in Scotland. So yeah, I came through, did all my education. I was general manager of one of the biggest health clubs in Northern Ireland. So I was professional in my own life as well as sporting life. And I was always pushed as a child to get my education. And my karate instructor was one of the main driving forces to send me to university. He helped me fill in the forms. He helped push me. And whenever I told my dad I was going to do a sports degree, he says, what are you doing that for? You're never going to get a job. And I think that back in the day, sport wasn't really seen as a career. It wasn't really seen as something you could get working. So whenever I came back out and I did manage one of the biggest health clubs in Northern Ireland, and then I progressed on further, you kind of realize, oh, sport is changing. People are starting to realize health is your wealth and they need it.
It's big business now, isn't it, sport? In Burnley here, I think it's called the UCFB Business Management, which started in the Turf Moor environment, and now I think it's expanded out to Wembley, and I think it might be the Etihad or something. There's big business in sport now, isn't there?
Yeah, it's huge. People are realizing how much it helps with mental health, with self-confidence, esteem. What I learned in sport, I was able to put into my team in Virgin. Whenever I managed the 68 staff, I got more out of the team because you got involved with them, you interact with them, you cared about them, you brought the weak players in. It was like just basically playing. I played county football, playing with a team and doing it in your management too. And I think as I came through the ranks, senior management realised how big a part sport played, and they liked the fact I got all my staff to train and do fitness. So they started rolling out to the rest of the company, making all staff teams train together, which was good. And so you know what it's like whenever you do a bit of fitness or you go for a walk, you feel better. You feel a lot better. It releases endorphins.
Yeah, and I think it's great the way that you got your sports gyms and you engage with the community, but you also do some stuff with your sister. Is that right, in terms of outreach in the city?
Yeah, one of my sisters, she started up her own outreach team. It was unbelievable. She worked during the day, and then at night time, all of a sudden, had organised hot food, hot drinks, sleeping bags. And she used to go out about 8 o'clock at night and not come home maybe to 2, 3 in the morning. And she used to tell me some of the stories. And then she says, come on, come out with me. I says, I will. So I went out a few times with her, and I was in shock. I was in shock talking and meeting some of the homeless in Belfast. And they were professionals that they either just gone down the wrong track or they've been caught up with drink or drugs, and they just lost their routine. They lost their way. So I did help Rosie with that, but Rosie was unbelievable. She did it for many, many years, as well as have her kids and work. And yeah, it was unreal. It was an unreal experience.
Yeah, and I guess you're expecting an uplift after COVID goes away, or the best it can go away, I suppose. a lot of people will turn to sport, won't they? As you said, to the gym for
Yeah,
sense of
I
well-being.
recently became an ambassador for street soccer NI, and they asked me to come on as their female ambassador. They encourage people to play football, and then they take them away for a homeless World Cup. So I'm involved with the ladies, and they're a brilliant bunch. We go down, we train. Sometimes I'll do boxing session with them, or do a cardio session, or I'll just join in and play football because I played football when I was younger. And I've got to meet basically the girls and boys that have been away and played in the World Cup and the ones that want to play in the next World Cup. And you can just see the passion that sport gives them, a bit of routine, and it gives them a bit of friendship and meeting each other as well. So I really enjoy doing that.
There's a lot to be said for exercise, isn't there? And I guess you doing that with them must have been quite brilliant for them, and they must have absolutely loved it.
Yeah, they did, and they all followed me on that last fight. They were coming on social media, and they were so supportive. It was really, really good. So yeah, it just brings the community closer together, and then realizing that we're all in it together, and we have to push through this COVID tough times, and hopefully come out the other end.
Yeah. Cathy, it's been really great talking to you. I don't, well, the standard question I have on the Godcast is, have you been to Burnley? But I can't think why you would have been, but have you been to Burnley?
No, I've never been to Burnley, so I haven't.
We've got some good, I'm a big Burnley football fan, and we've got some great connections with Northern Ireland. We've had some great players over the years, and some kind of legends from the game. Jimmy McElroy is a name you might be familiar with, who was kind of he was Northern Ireland's leading goal scorer, I think, and he lived and passed away in Burnley. But it's been really, really great just getting an insight into the world of a female's boxing career and how you progressed. And I just wish you well. I hope you get that title that you're craving. When are you next likely to be in the ring? Have you any idea?
We have a couple lined up, but it's all down to COVID dependent. So we've one in March and one in April lined up. But who knows? Who knows at the minute with all the lockdowns happening, whether they'll happen. I've just got to keep the head and keep ticking over and hope that it'll all come good.
Yeah, great. Well, all the best. Happy New Year to you, Cathy. Send our love to Kelly. That was a great interview. I don't know if you've seen it, but apparently she was going to be a priest or a nun or something. You'll have to ask her about that. But
I'll watch it tonight, because you told me about it, but we didn't get a chance to take into it. So we'll watch it tonight for sure.
it's great. It's one of my favourites. I really enjoyed it. But it's been great talking to you, Cathy, and thanks for your time. And from Burnley, Happy New Year and God bless.
Happy New Year and thanks for having me on.